Baba. All right, here we go. So, as the freaking title of the stream says, I'm gonna be going over a book called The Politics of Nature: How to Bring Democracy to Objects, I think is the subtitle. But I'm not gonna look. I'm just gonna assume that's correct. It's a book by one of my favorite people, Bruno Latour, and I'm gonna kind of be reading it and trying my best to explain it. And so yeah, so yeah, and we're gonna start off with something cute that I love, something cute and something funny. I checked out this book a while ago. I was gonna read this book. I've read a lot of Bruno Latour stuff, and there's a lot of his books have dedications. And this one's dedicated to Isabel Stengers, Vincent Despret, and David Western, all of which are Isabel Stengers especially is important for actor network theory, the thing that Latour is most known for. Um, and and so yeah. And so yeah. Three true practitioners of cosmopolitics, which cosmopolitics is something that I think Isabel Stengers coined the term herself. A lot of people science studies is a very small field, and a lot of these people overlap. You'll be seeing a lot of familiar names if I ever continue. And then we have to go to the next funny thing, which is it's actually in the contents. So in the conclusion, the first section, the fucking section is called Summary of the Argument for Readers in a Hurry. And that's the fucking conclusion. That's how he wants to conclude it. But we will not be in a hurry. We will be going through the introduction. We'll be going through the whole book. I plan to. With Reassembling the Social, he was like, hey, you can actually kind of skip some of this if you already know about my stuff. And I was like, no, actually, I love you, Bruno Latour. I'm not skipping anything you have to tell me. Because I love it, because it gives me new explanations, give me new things, and so, yeah. And so the introduction. What is to be done with political ecology? What is to be done with political ecology? Nothing. What is to be done? Political ecology. All those who have hoped that the politics of nature would bring about a renewal of public life has asked the first question, noting the stagnation of the so-called green movements. Bruno Latour is funny like this. He with Ant. Hey baby. Sorry, my cat came out. With Ant, in Reassembling the Social, he has a little he does a little story with him and with an imaginary teacher of Ant and an imaginary student, and he makes a little story. And the student asks, what is Ant best for? And the teacher says, it's not really good. Ant isn't really good for anything. And he says that's what makes it so great, is because it's not really it's not really useful for anything. And it's the point with Ant, I'm butchering that a bit. That isn't actually what it says. It says something actually a bit more specific, but I'm not going to go look it up now because it'll be fun. But with Ant, Bruno Latour, my point is Bruno Latour does stuff like that. He's a goofy guy. They would like very much. I'm actually going to restart the first paragraph though. I'm going to try my best to explain. I haven't read this before. This is my first time reading this, so I'm going to try to explain what I can, what I know, ask questions to get you thinking about stuff, because I like Bruno Latour, and he deserves to be shared, very much so, with the world. And so yeah, if I know Lily's here at least, so if you have any questions, Lily, just frickin' ask. All those who have hoped that the politics of nature would bring about a renewal of public life have asked the first question while noting the stagnation of the so-called green movements. They would like very much to know why so promising an endeavor has so often come to naught. Appearances notwithstanding, everyone is bound to answer the second question the same way. We have no choice. Politics does not fall neatly on one side of a divide and nature on the other. From the time the term politics was invented, every type of politics has been defined by its relation to nature, whose every feature, property, and function depends on the polemical will to limit, reform, establish, short-circuit, or enlighten public life. This is a very simple way to think of Latour. He's someone who connects everything up. For Latour, connections are the point. Assemblages, maybe you could also say. Networks might be another thing. Actor networks might be a more pretentious way to say that. But this is the same. And for Latour, nature and politics, they aren't separate fields. There aren't two domains to choose from. You don't have nature or society and then politics and whatever else. These are all connected fields. It's the common through line, and he explains it a bit differently in each of his books. But it's always there. It's always a through line. As a result, we cannot choose whether to engage in political ecology or not. We can choose whether to engage in it surreptitiously by distinguishing between questions of nature and questions of politics, or explicitly by treating those two sets of questions as a single issue that arises for all collectives. While the ecology movements tell us that nature is rapidly invading politics, we shall have to imagine, most often aligning ourselves with these movements, sometimes against them, what a politics finally freed from the sword of Damocles we call nature might be like. Critics will argue that political ecology already exists. They will tell us that it has countless nuances from the most profound to the most superficial, including all possible utopian, rational, or free market forms. Whatever reservations we may have about them, these movements have already woven innumerable bonds between nature and politics. Indeed, this is just what they all claim to be doing. Finally undertaking a politics of nature. Finally modifying public life so that it takes nature into account. Finally adapting our system of production to nature's demand. Finally preserving nature from human degradation through a sustainable politics. In short, in many often vague and sometimes contradictory guises, concern for nature has already been introduced into political life. How could I claim here that there's a new task here, one that has not yet been taken up? People may argue over its usefulness, they may quibble over its application, but we cannot behave as if the task has not already been addressed, if not already been to a considerable extent accomplished. If political ecology has turned out to be such a disappointment, it is not because no one has tried to make a place for nature within public life. If political ecology is losing its influence, according to some, this is simply because the interests lined up against it are too powerful. According to others, it is because political ecology has never had enough substance to compete with the age-old practice of politics as usual. In any event, it is too late to reopen the issue yet again. We need either to bury the movement in the already well-stocked cemetery of outdated ideologies, or else we need to fight still more courageously to ensure that the movement will triumph in its present form. In either case, the die is cast, the concepts are identified, positions are known. You are showing up too late for a debate whose terms are already set in concrete. The time for reflection is past. You should have spoken up 10 years ago. And this is a very familiar opening to me. Bruno Latour opens a lot of his books like this, saying that there's these two sides. It's usually two. And he offers a third one. It is not to say an intermediary, a center between the two. It's usually a going beyond of both. He's not really interested in a lot of those. He wants to do something different. And Bruno Latour, I think, does things really differently, really interestingly. And a common theme in most of his books, though, is opening. In this book, I should like to propose a different hypothesis that may justify my ill-timed intervention. From a conceptual standpoint, political ecology has not yet begun to exist. The words ecology and politics have simply been juxtaposed without a thoroughgoing rethinking of either term. As a result, we can draw no conclusions from the trials the ecology movements have gone through up to now, either about their past failures or about their possible successes. The reason for the delay is very simple. People have been much too quick to believe that it sufficed to recycle the old concepts of nature and politics unchanged in order to establish the rights and manners of political ecology. Yet, logos, Usis, and polis remain real enigmas so long as the four concepts are not put into play at the same time. I wish I had my fucking friend here who knew fucking Greek. I have a friend who I usually read this with, and they know Greek. Those are all Greek terms. Logos is like logic? Okay. Oikos refers to family. Family and household, apparently. Phusis means nature or essence. And polis is really the term politics from. It's very good. Polis is fucking complicated. And I don't know anything about Greek or anything about these words, so I'm not going to say shit. So, I don't know. So if I'm translating, if I'm going to translate these, the household, logic, the nature or essence of things, and politics, I'm going to say. But I'm going to say that, like, I'm going to say that, like, carefully, because he probably wants us to separate these terms from what they might be translated into, is probably where he's going to go with that. Political ecologists have supposed that they could dispense with this conceptual work without noticing the notions of nature and politics had been developed over centuries in such a way as to make any juxtaposition, any synthesis, any combination of the two terms impossible. And even more seriously, they have claimed the enthusiasm of a ecumenical vision to have gotten beyond the old distinction between humans and things, subjects of law and objects of science, without observing that these entities had been shaped, profiled, and sculpted in such a way they had gradually become incompatible. Far from getting beyond the dichotomies of man and nature, subject and object, modes of production, and the environment, in order to find remedies for the crisis as quick as possible, what political ecologists should have done was slow down the movement, take their time, then bury down beneath the dichotomies like proverbial old mole. Such at least is my argument. Instead of cutting the Gordian knot, I'm going to shake it around in a lot of different ways. I shall untie a few of its strands in order to knot them back together differently. Where the political philosophy of science is concerned, one must take one's time in order not to lose it. The ecologists were a little too quick to pat themselves on the back when they put forward their slogan, "Think globally, act locally." Where global thinking is concerned, they have come up with nothing better than a nature already composed, already totalized, already instituted to neutralize politics. To think in truly global fashion, they need to begin by discovering the institutions thanks to which globalism is constructed one step at a time. In nature, as we shall see, could hardly lend itself any less effectively to the process. Yes, in this book we are going to advance like the tortoise in the fable. And like the tortoise, or at least so I hope, we shall end up passing the hair, which has decided in its great wisdom that political ecology is an outmoded question, dead and buried, incapable of producing thought, unable to provide a new foundation for morality, epistemology, and democracy. The same hair that has claimed to be reconciling man and nature in a couple of great leaps. In order to force ourselves to slow down, we'll have to deal simultaneously with the sciences, with nature, with politics, in the plural. Scientific production. Oh, I need to actually make a comment before we go on. The plural is very important for Latour. Because what does Latour not want to do? Latour isn't interested in totalizing things. He doesn't. It's not his thing. Things are things are complicated. Is the big thing. Things are really complicated for Latour, and there isn't just in Factish Gods. The third essay, he ends up writing about religion and science. And when he's talking about religion, he's talking about specifically Christianity. Why? It is because it is Latour's own tradition. Latour is a Catholic. It's something that's kind of odd if you deal with him, but he's a Catholic. It's and that is important to the essay, knowing he is a Catholic, knowing this. And the reason why he does this is because there isn't, for Latour, there isn't a single thing called religion that like he doesn't believe in that as like a thing. You can say there's religions, you can't say there is religion, I guess is the thing. And same with sciences. There's science. There's the sciences. It's a plural thing. It's multiple. It's different across them. It's, I think, the big thing. Scientific production. Here's the first obstacle we shall encounter along our way. Political ecology is said to have to do with nature and its links with society. Well and good. But this nature becomes knowable through this intermediary of the sciences, has been formed through networks of instruments. It is defined through the interventions of professions, disciplines, and protocols. It is distributed via databases, provided with arguments through the intermediary of learned societies. Ecology, as its name indicates, has no direct access to nature as such. It is a logy, like all the scientific disciplines. Under the heading of science, then, we already find a complex mix of proofs and proof workers, a learned community that acts as a third party in all relations with society. 1 second. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. He was just. I was just making sure that I remembered that he said nature there. That he said nature, not some other word. Under the heading of science, then, we already find a rather complex mix of proofs and proof workers, a learned community that acts as a third party in all relations with society. And yet too often, the ecological movements have sought to short-circuit this third party, precisely in order to accelerate their militant progress. For them, science remains a mirror of the world, to the extent that one can almost always, in their literature, take the terms nature and science to be synonyms. And we are actually going to check out the notes. Are they at the end? What page are we on? So we're on page 4. It's gonna be like 10, right? I think the notes are at the end of the book, which is very sad if that's true. I'm gonna actually cry. Yeah, it is. It is at the end of the book. I'm literally crying. Freaking crying. So 300 should be it. This is the bibliography. Where are the freaking notes? And now we go to 7 to 13. And then what was the thing? What was the thing? What's the okay, that they can be taken as synonyms in the literature. I think it was 290? No, no, it wasn't. It was 270, we'll say. Close enough. I just immediately forgot what I was doing. 251. It is surprising to note that while most of the issues raised by the ecology movement depend entirely on the sciences for their visibility, the exceptions to this rule remain few in number. We may think, for example, of the greenhouse effect or the progressive disappearance of the cetaceans. In every instance, the scholarly disciplines turn out to be on the front lines, which is not the case with other social movements. Find one of the exceptions in Sergei Moscovici, and all the more a precise exception in that book was written more than 30 years ago. So the seminal book by Michel Serres in 1995 is one that establishes the closest link between questioning that focuses on the science and the questions addressed to ecology from the standpoint of a joint anthropology of law and science. What's the 1995 Michel Serres book? Is that Michel Serres? Which one would that be? It wouldn't be that. Just look up Michel Serres, 1995. That's not it. That's not it. It might actually be his conversation with Latour, because they actually talked. Latour is a Marcel Serres stan, and I think they got to talk. So I think that's actually what it is. I think that might actually be what it is. I haven't read that book, but I think that might be what it is. The present work extends some of Serres' advances on the contractual function of the sciences. Is it the natural contract? Or wait, sorry, I'm getting fucking sidetracked. Natural contract. It's called the natural. Yeah, it's called the natural contract. Is that what it is? It's not 1995. Okay, I'm going to assume it's the that it's the frickin' book where they talk to each other. The present work extends some of Serres' advances on the contractual function of the sciences. Ulrich Beck, 1997, also alludes frequently to the sociology of the sciences, as does Pierre Lascaux, 1994, in a book that has been especially important for my own work. For the rest, except for the works on public participation, or Win and Win, 1996, Lash, Zersinski, and Win, 1996, the intersections between ecology and science studies remain astonishingly sporadic. Still, we have Stephen Yearley, Klaus Eder, and Jorbs Robertson. Oh wait, we're in the fucking note. I forgot we were in the note for a second. I can actually just 270, was it? 290? Where's the bibliography at? Okay, it's last name first. Last name is first, that makes sense. I thought it would be, yeah, Habermas. It's a last name. Schmidt. Carl Schmidt, wait. That's a President Sunday reference. Oh, it is the natural contract. I was right. It was the natural contract. Okay. I'm so good. I'm so cool. Back to this. My hypothesis is, on the contrary, that the enigma of scientific production must be repositioned at the very core of political ecology. This may well slow down the acquisition of the certainties that were supposed to serve as leverage in the political struggle, between nature and society, we shall conclude this third term, whose role will turn out to be crucial. Nature is the second speed bump that political ecology is going to encounter along its route. How some will object. Can nature inconvenes a set of militant and scientific disciplines that have to do with the way to protect nature, to defend it, to insert it into the play of politics, to make an aesthetic object of it, a subject of law, or in any case a concern? And yet, this is where the difficulty arises. Every time we seek to mix scientific facts with aesthetic, political, economic, and moral values, we find ourselves in a quandary. If we concede too much to facts, the human element in its entirety tilts into objectivity, becomes a countable, calculable thing, a bottom line in terms of energy, one species among others. If we concede too much to values, all of nature tilts into the uncertainty of into myth, into poetry or romanticism. Everything becomes soul and spirit. If we mix facts and values, we go from bad to worse, for we are depriving ourselves of both autonomous knowledge and independent morality. We shall never know, for example, whether the apocalyptic predictions with which the militant ecologists threaten us mask the power scientists hold over politicians, or the dominations politicians exercise over poor scientists. This book set forth the hypothesis that political ecology has nothing at all to do with nature. That blend of Greek politics, French Cartesian, and American parts. French Cartesianism and American parts. Let me put it bluntly. Political ecology has nothing to do with nature. To put it even more strongly, at no time in its short history has political ecology ever had anything to do with nature, with its defense or protection. As I shall show in Chapter 1, the belief that political ecology is interested in nature is the childhood illness of the field, keeping it in a state of impotence, preventing it from ever understanding its own practice. My hope is that the weaning process, and it appears somewhat harsh, will have more favorable efforts than the forced maintenance of the notion of nature as the sole object of political ecology. The third most troubling and most controversial obstacle. Also, I have to say something. That's why I should probably say something about this. Bruno Latour is very harsh. He is often quite harsh to himself. But he's also quite harsh to the fields that he is a part of, that he himself wants to participate in. And Latour isn't against political ecology. Latour, a lot of his work is trying to correct certain things. Certain issues he thinks are coming from the fields he really quite loves. And it is with love that he is so harsh, I think, in a lot of ways. Because he quite likes this stuff, and he's very sad that it's not going in productive directions. It's something. But right now, I don't really have much to add because he's not doing anything that I. Maybe, you know what? Maybe I can explain a little bit. Maybe I can. Maybe I should actually do that. Let me go back a little bit. Let me find something. Let me just find something, and I can probably explain a little bit because a lot of this stuff is quite obvious to me. It is stuff Latour does in most of his books. There's a line in one of his essays that he's been doing the same thing for the past 20 years, or fucking however long it was. He has. That isn't to say all of his books read the same. They don't. They very much don't. If you read Aramis and you read this, and you read Lab Life, they're all very different books. They all read very differently. They're all extremely different and engage you in very different ways. He definitely writes to suit whatever purpose, writes in a specific way to suit whatever purpose he's trying to set out. Um, okay. So let me quiet. I'm trying to find something that I feel like wasn't too obvious. Wasn't too After this, I'll go on by fucking giving a little summary of the paragraphs. I'll actually do that. But there is something that I saw that I can actually explain. Actually, I did that. I... Was it on this page? Might have been on this page. Someone messaged me. I'm gonna kill them. In a video game. Not in real life. Where was it? I was looking for something. Okay, I can't find it. So what I'll do instead is I'm just gonna frickin' I'll just from now on I'll go through and I'll give a little short summary. Um, the third most troubling and most controversial obstacle obviously comes from politics. You know the difference between scientific ecology and political ecology, between the study of ecology and the militant in the ecology movement. You also know how much difficulty ecology movements have always had finding a place on the political chessboard. On the right, the left, the far right, the far left, neither right nor left, elsewhere in government, nowhere in utopia, above in technocracy, below in a return to the sources of wisdom, beyond in full self-realization, everywhere, as the lovely Gaia hypothesis suggests, positing an Earth that would bring all ecosystems together in a single integrated organism. There can be a Gaia science, a Gaia cult, but can there be a Gaia politics? Reach the point of defending Mother Earth, is that a politics? And if our goal is to put a stop to noise pollution, to shut down city dumps, to reduce the fumes of exhaust pipes, it really isn't worth making the effort to move heaven and earth. A cabinet ministry will do. My hypothesis is that the ecology movements have sought to position themselves on the political chessboard without redrawing its squares, without redefining the rules of the game, without redesigning the pawns. Here he's doing something pretty simple. He was yapping about just it's right now. Political ecology doesn't land anywhere, but politically, you can't place it anywhere. It's not something that can be placed, and even the places you can place it, what's the point? A fucking you can just have a frickin' a little like a small little political group to do that for you. That's in like the government. So like, what are you doing? Nothing, in fact, proves the division of labor between human politics and the science of things, and the requirements of freedom and the powers of necessity, can be used as such in order to harbor political ecology. It may be necessary to hypothesize that the political freedom of humans has never been defined except in order to constrain it by applying the laws of natural necessity. I'm going to read something again, real quick. It may even be necessary to hypothesize the political freedom of humans has never been defined except in order to constrain it by applying the laws of natural necessity. If this proved to be the case, democracy would have been made impotent by design. Human beings are born free. Everywhere they are in chains. The social contract claims to emancipate them. Political ecology alone can do this. Political ecology itself cannot expect to be saved by free men and women. Obliged to redefine politics and science, freedom and necessity, the human and the inhuman, in order to find a niche for itself, political ecology has lost heart along the way. It thought it could rely on nature to hasten the advent of democracy. Today it lacks both. It has to be taken up again from a different angle, by a longer and more perilous detour. How do I explain this? How do I explain what he's doing here? He's saying here. Do-do-do-do. He's. I wish I knew much. I should read. I should read. I should read Hobbes and Rousseau or fucking older people. That would probably help with me explaining this. Because I think. Because Latour is almost certainly referencing the fact that these ideas come from a lot older places than we think. And it coming from those older places is one of the many reasons why we need to redefine it, because things have shifted. Political ecology intends to shift things in specific ways, and that is kind of just what he's on about. I guess that is the simple way, because through this old way, like he says, today it lacks both, and so the task must be taken up again from a different angle by longer, more perilous detour. And so I guess that's kind of simply just how to put it. There's probably something more I could say if I knew more about political theory and stuff like that, but I don't. I know a little bit, but not enough to like say anything. So yeah, I don't say anything that like wouldn't be like me making up shit, basically. What authority can I subject political ecology to the three tests of scientific production: the abandonment of nature and the redefinition of the political? Are the author and those who have inspired him militant ecologists? No. Recognized ecologists? Not that either. Influential politicians, then? Certainly not. If I could plead any authority at all, I'm well aware that I would save my readers time. They could trust me. But the point is not to save time, to speed up, to synthesize masses of data, to solve urgent problems in a hurry, to ward off dramatic cataclysms by equally dramatic actions. The point is not even to draw upon meticulous erudition in order to do justice to those who think seriously about ecology. In this book, the point is simply to raise a familiar question once again for myself, perhaps for myself alone. What do nature, science, and politics have to do with one another? Weakness, it seems to me, may lead further than strength. Anyone familiar with Bruno Latour, before I start summarizing, is going to find this paragraph funny, because in Factish Gods, in the third essay, he starts it very similarly. I'm not a theologian, nor a particularly pious person, and stuff like that. And he fucking says, but I might be allowed to start from this position of weakness, and it is kind of a thing. And the point of this is kind of just to say his point. For Latour, he is not interested in something that's quick. He's not interested in snap explanations, and he doesn't do things in a snap. Past this introduction, things are probably going to get a lot more dense, and right now he is yapping a lot, and you can kind of put it down. But in a lot of his books, that's how his introductions always start. They're not usually very dense. They're usually very they're him having fun a bit, and doing stuff, and they're usually not very long. and it's kind of the setup in most of his things. And from here, things will get very dense and very slow. In Reassembling the Social, which is his book, which the subtitle is An Introduction to Actor Network Theory. I wonder what the fuck it's about. He says he is interested in slow ecology. Sorry, I should probably slay it. Slow ecology. I'll fucking type it in chat. And that's what he fucking says. Because he's not interested in a quick sociology, and it isn't quick. It's very slow. It's very time consuming, just like science is. Because the point of Ant is to make sociology more scientific, because he thinks it has failed in a lot of ways, at least with particular things. It should be clarified. With particular things, it has failed. He doesn't think sociology has failed as a whole. That would be wrong to say. If I have no authority of my own, I nevertheless benefit from a particular advantage, and this alone is what authorizes me to address my readers. I am interested in political production, no more and no less than I am interested in scientific production. Or rather, I admire politicians as much as I admire scientists. Think about it. This twofold respect is not so common. My absence of authority offers precisely the guarantee that I will not use science to subjugate politics or politics to subjugate science. My claim is that I can turn this minuscule advantage into a major asset. To the question with which I began, what is to be done with political ecology? I do not yet have a definitive answer. They know that if I did not try to modify the terms of the debate by finding a new way to tie the Gordian knot of science and politics, the full-scale experiment in which we are all engaged would prove nothing one way or the other. It would always lack an adaptive protocol. I would always reproach myself for missing the opportunity to redefine politics that ecology might have offered. Okay, that isn't the end. So, thought we were only on the 7th page. Do I have to explain anything? Do I have to explain anything? The introduction is kind of simple. The beginning bits were kind of a bit, but I explained those, I think. I don't think I have to explain this. I think this is pretty straight. I think this is just, he's just like, is that at the bottom of the page? Can I find this? Okay. This will be in the next one. There is one more constraint to which I have sought to subject myself, although I have to refashion the three conjoined notions of nature, politics, and science. I've chosen to use neither the denunciatory, nor the prophetic tone that often accompanies the works of political ecology. Although I am preparing to work through a series of hypotheses in which each one will be stranger than the one before, it is nevertheless common sense that I seek to reflect above all. As it happens, common sense is opposed for the time being, good sense. Let's see. 250. Is it 259? No, it was 255. Or was it 1? Was it 251? Was I right? I thought it was 251, but I thought I was wrong. All the terms marked with an asterisk are discussed in the glossary at the end of the book, page 237. As I abstain from any linguistic innovations, I use this time to remind readers that certain common expressions must be understood in a somewhat technical sense and will be specified little by little. And I hope you guys know we will be going to the glossary because I love glossaries. Floozer, in his book, another author I quite love, in his book, in his essays, in a set of essays that was turned into a book. What's it called? Called Towards a Philosophy of the Photograph. Or Towards a Philosophy of Photography, I forget which one. Common sense. See good sense. Thank you, Latour. I love you too, good buddy. Thank you, Latour. I will look at good sense then, I guess. I will look at good sense instead of common sense. Okay. Good sense, as opposed to common sense. These terms are set in opposition. In order to replace critical discourse in the operation of unmasking, good sense represents the past of the collective, while common sense, the sense of what is held in common, the search for what may be common, represents its future. Okay. Whereas it may be permissible to force good sense somewhat with venturesome arguments, it's always necessary to verify that one is finally rejoining common sense. Okay, good sense is, I assume something like past experiences, while common sense is going to be like what Latour calls is going to be related to what Latour probably calls the common world, which he gets from William James. And the common world is what it sounds like. It is William James, notable for pluralism, thought that eventually the plural could become singular. I might be butchering this, but this is what I'm going to say. The plural could become singular in a certain way after certain things happen. I don't know. I haven't read any William James. This is just what I'm getting from Latour. So this might be Latour doing stuff with James that isn't in his work explicitly. And so that's probably what common sense will be. Okay. Good sense is put a common sense. So good sense is represents the past of the collective, while common sense, the sense of what is held in common, or the search for what may be common, represents its future. Okay. I assume he'll elaborate on this a little bit more. So 7 plus 13 is 21. It's 20. No, it isn't. It's 7. I forgot. Sorry, I'm stupid. I forgot that the book doesn't actually, that the pages are actually titled in the preface are put as like Roman numerals. Okay, I'm gonna reread this again. There's one more constraint to which I have sought to subject myself, although I have to refashion the three conjoined notions of nature, politics, and science. I've chosen to use neither the denunciatory nor the prophetic tone that often accompanies the works of political ecology. Although I am preparing to work through a series of hypotheses in which one will be stranger than the one before, it is nevertheless common sense that I seek to reflect above all. As it happens, common sense is opposed for the time being to good sense. To proceed quickly, I shall have to go slowly, to be simple, as to prevent a provisional appearance of radicality. My goal is thus not to overturn the established order of concepts, but describe the actual state of affairs. Political ecology is already doing in practice everything that I assert it has to do. I'm simply betting that the urgencies of action have prevented it from pinpointing the originality of what it was accomplishing in a groping fashion, because they don't understand the reversal in the position of the sciences that these innovations imply. The only service I can render political ecology is to offer it an alternative interpretation of itself, a different common sense, so that it can try to determine whether it finds itself in a more comfortable position or not. Up to now, as I see it, philosophers have offered to clothe political ecology only in ready-to-wear garments. I believe it deserves a made-to-order garb. Perhaps it will find itself less constricted and the fit a little more comfortable. What is he doing here? You'll notice something. He talks about states of affairs. He's not going to say that he's not trying to overturn anything. He doesn't believe he is overturning anything. Is also the other thing. He's not overturning. What he intends to do is describe describe the state of affairs. And that's probably going to be odd for a lot of you, but is what Latour usually does. Often, the point of his books is to say, we conceive of these things. To put it simply, to put it simply, we conceive of these things in this way. In practice, though, this is never how it really turns out. We say, we draw the distinction. I'm going to use factish as an example. We draw the distinction between fact and fetish, but in practice, no one ever draws this distinction. We never, in practice, distinguished between fact and fetish. You're all there's no because we we know it's easy. It's easy. It's literally in the sayings we have. Um, we don't uh we don't believe in the difference anymore. Once we practice these things, once we practice something, when we're making music, when we're making art, when we're doing science, even we never engage with the distinction between facts and fetishes. We don't believe in it anymore. It's not something we 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 see only when we're talking conceptually, in theory, as he says. Do we ever make these distinctions? In practice, they all go away. They're never there. And that's also what that's I think that's probably where he's going here. I haven't read this again, so I'm kind of making some guesses based off what I know of the Torah, the things I have read about the Torah, but I think that's where he's going. And now we have note 3. 251. In the geopolitics of the philosophy of nature, France benefits from a comparative advantage because the notion of an ahuman nature that ought to be protected has never taken root here. From Diderot to Francois Dagonet, 1990, by way of Bergson, Andrew Leroy Gorman, and Andrew George Hadricourt, you find in France a rich constructivist tradition that praises the artificiality of nature, thanks to the industrious figure of the engineer. For example, we find a striking version of the French-derived constructivism in Moscovici. The world turns its back on intelligence, molts into a dead star, denies the meaning of its own existence, if, in the event of its constitution, one does not see it embody the labor of the shepherd or the farmer, the craftsman or the clockmaker. I shall add to this comparison all varieties of scholar. Unfortunately, the French believe they have criticized the American version of nature simply by pointing out that there is no nature that is not man-made. Once they had criticized deep ecology and its excessive respect for a mythic nature, that wilderness, they thought they had nothing left to do. Was that a Star Wars reference? When did Star Wars come out? When did the first Star Wars? Star Wars, A New Hope. That might be. Hold on. Wait a second. Wait a second. Wait a second. No, that's not. That can't be a Star Wars reference. I don't believe. No. Star Wars, A New Hope, release date. When did it release? Probably not. It could have been. Maybe this is an essay. Maybe this is an essay he's referencing. But if it isn't an essay he's referencing, then that might not be a Star Wars reference. Oh wait, I can actually figure it out real quick for you. Oh wait, we're in the fucking. We're in the frickin'. Sorry, I cursed. I can't curse. I can't swear. No swearing. I'm wholesome. We're in the frickin' notes still, so I can actually go. So it's Moscovici, 1970. So we go to 290. I assume Moscovici is his last name. I'm going to assume that. You know what they say about assuming. You should do it all the time. Moscovici. Essai sur la history humaine de la nature. I don't speak French, but that's my attempt. And I assume this says essay on the history of human nature, history of human and on the human and nature. Oh, 1968. So is he saying that? So did the essay come out? Is he referencing something from 1977? When did this come out? Okay, 1977. Okay. Oh, this isn't an essay. It's probably essays. The essays on the history of human nature. Moscovici. Sorry, it's the human history of nature. I thought it was going to be the human history of nature. Okay, so I think the English human history of nature was released in 19 Moscovici. Check Moscovici. Okay. Okay, so I don't think this was Star Wars because the French came out in, unless this was updated, um when the English translation came out as well, and he it was like a second edition, which it doesn't seem to be. It might not actually be available. I think it is available in English, but I can't find it unless the one I found was it. But it doesn't seem to be. I don't know why. I don't think the. Oh, well, I did find it, but I can't find it anywhere besides Google Books. I don't know why. And it's freaking upsetting me. Freaking upset, man. So we're on page 8. I lied. We're not on page 8. We're on page 7. Oh, and oh, sorry. I guess to do a little thing on the little thing we just read. Uh, he was just doing what he normally does, which is criticizing his French colleagues. He was like, "Hey, French guys, you did kind of good, okay, but you need to fucking do more, motherfucker. Like, come on, you can't stop. You can't just freaking stop, man. You can't just freaking stop." So the answer is maybe, probably not, unless there was a second edition, or unless the English edition was written again by the author. Unless it was like a second edition too, and not just like a translation into the new language. To keep this book to a reasonable length, I have said little about the field studies on which it is based. Because I could not make the basic argument more accessible by shoring it up with solid empirical proof, I have organized it meticulously in such a way that readers always know what difficulties await them. In addition to the glossary, I have also drawn up a summary at the end that can serve as a crib sheet. That's cute. I love you too, Bruno Latour. I love you freaking too, man. Thank you for giving me that. And we're gonna look at that. Oh, sorry. I was 100 pages off. I don't know what I was thinking about. Having learned from experience that one must not demand too much of readers, I put together this book as if it presupposed no knowledge of my previous work. Those who are familiar with the work with that work will see, however, that I'm returning to the topic I addressed in the last chapter of my investigation into the modern Constitution, Latour 1993. And what book is that, guys? That's right. We have never been modern. That's what the book is. And because you guys are all good Latourians, you guys have all read this book. I'm taking another look at what I called the Parliament of Things, which was visible at the time as it were, from the outside. The fact that it has taken me nearly 10 years to describe it from the inside does not simply prove that I think slowly. Does not simply prove that I think slowly. I thought then that people had not done a good job talking about the sciences. They knew how to deal with politics. I didn't imagine that politics would differ as much from the picture drawn of it by political science as science differed from the picture drawn of it by epistemology. I was sadly mistaken. I addressed the issue in another work, which is really the twin volume of this one, in which I attempted to extract the philosophy proper to the science studies that my colleagues and I have been engaged in for a number of years now, that has had a great deal of difficulty taking root, Latour 1989b. Finally, this book obviously presupposes a wholly different theory of the social than one espoused by the sciences of society. A simple pendant, as we shall see, the politics of nature, criticized in the pages that follow. Latour 1999b is probably Pandora's Hope. It's probably Pandora's Hope. Pandora's Hope. Yep, it was written in 1999 originally. Yep, it's Pandora's Hope. I know my Latour, guys. I fucking know my Latour. You can ask me basically any question about this guy, and I can answer. I love him. I love. He's my guy. He's my guy. And soon Floozer will be my guy too, but I haven't read enough of Floozer to get it. I'm thinking about buying the Fluseriana, an intellectual toolbox, which has like a list of like people love Floozer apparently. Like Floozer is like a really weird author that's focused on, and someone created a book called Fluseriana, an intellectual toolbox, which literally gets all of his concepts together and fucking explains them in like the words he uses, like even like simple words. Like it has someone that I quite like named Brooks of the Quarantine Collective was packing his books, was putting away his books, was unpacking his books because he moved recently, and I saw that and I was like, I need that, and he flipped through it and I saw a definition of disgust, like this seemingly simple word, and it was in there, and I was like, oh my god, thank you, I need to buy that. But sadly it's like $70. It's like $70 because it's like only available in Switzerland. It's only like fucking, it's like a Swiss book or some shit like that. So it fucking sucks, man. And so we're gonna go to the glossary. What was the little thing? Sciences of Society. I'm going to look for Sciences of Society, and then I'm going to look for Society. Science as opposed to Sciences. Okay. It is Society. And we're going to go over this. It might be, even if it isn't, there's probably ways for you to get it for free. And I could probably just ask in the Quarantine Collective, hey, motherfucker, can someone get me this? I really need this. I need this. Please. Someone could find it. I looked in a few places that I know, and I couldn't get it. And I was really sad. I was literally, I went, wah, and I cried. I literally freaking cried, man. Society, social. The term society or social world are used to designate the half of the old constitution. We're gonna go check that out for you guys. That has to unify subjects detached from objects and always subjected to the threat of unification by nature. That has to unify subjects detached from objects and always subjected to the threat of unification by nature. It is an already constituted whole that explains human behavior and thus makes it possible to short-circuit the political task of composition. It thus plays the same paralyzing role as nature, for the same reasons. The adjective social in the prison of the social fear, or social representation, or social constructivism, is thus always pejorative. It designates the hopeless effort of the prisoners of the cave, to articulate reality while lacking the means to do so. And we're gonna go through this. We're gonna go through this fucking definition, and I'm going to, if something else comes up, I'm gonna fucking do it, because that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get better at explaining my guy, Latour. I can explain him, but I don't know if I can do it well. I don't know if I can do it to people who are all that new to Latour is the issue. And so I need to get better at that. So I'm eventually going to make videos on Latour. And I love Latour, and he's my guy. He's He's my little French man. My little French man. Consultation. Constitution. Term borrowed from law and political science, used here in a broader metaphysical sense, since it refers to the division of beings into humans and non-humans, objects and subjects, the type of power and ability to speak, mandate, and will that they perceive. Like the term culture, constitution refers to things as well as to persons. Like the term structure, it points to the willful, explicit, spelled-out character of this apportionment. To dramatize the contrast, I set the old modern constitution in opposition to the new constitution, political ecology. The way the old regime in French history is set in opposition to the republic. See also experimental metaphysics. The old regime. We might not check out this because I think I don't think it's necessary to understand this. I don't know if the old regime right now is all that important to understand. But we're gonna go to Constitution. Got that down. What was the second one? Okay, we'll go back and I want to see what the other ones were. Because I already forgot because I got myself sidetracked. Because I heard noises. And I hear things. I get spooked like a little, because I'm like a little cat. So designate the old half of the Constitution. The Constitution is the explicit part of something, basically, as opposed to the implicit part. So that's a thing. The implicit part of the the old Constitution, which is the explicit part of fucking will. I don't fucking know. I don't know how to explain it. Social representation. So social representation should be around here. Oh, it's not social representation, it's representation. That's what it is. Oh, wait. R comes before S. That would probably be good. Used in two radically different senses, which are always distinguished by the context. A. In the negative sense of social representation, it signifies one of the two powers of political epistemology, forbids all public life, since its subjects or cultures have access only to secondary qualities and never to essences. And B, in the positive sense, it designates the dynamics of the collective, which is representing, that is, presenting again, the question of the common world, and is constantly testing the faithfulness of the reconsideration. What did you do? The cats are being bad. Don't knock over that. Don't knock over that. My cats are being evil. They're being evil. They're interrupting me. Where was I? Oh, explaining representation. So it means in the negative sense. Wait. Let me make sure. I'm pretty sure it means in the negative sense. Yeah, or social representation. Yeah, so it means in the negative sense. It means in the negative sense, yeah. So that would be they basically never have access to the thing. They can only access. Well, we'll go to quality and to that because that actually is probably important. Sorry that I'm like fucking being a. I'm a freak. I'm a weirdo. You know. So I'm sorry that I'm doing that, but I think it's important to go through this stuff. Latour gives you the definitions, and I think it's good to just use them. Wait, what? Did I miss it? I probably did. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q. Oh, Q's before R. That's why. I thought Q was after S. Fucked it up again. Wait, what? Am I stupid? Didn't answer that. Is it secondary qualities? No, it isn't. It's not. So wait, where are qualities at? Or okay, qualities just isn't here. Where is it? Okay, so this is why I had problems because it's primary qualities as opposed to secondary qualities. Okay, that's why, because it's not that. Primary qualities as opposed to secondary qualities. Traditional expression in philosophy to distinguish the fabric of which the world is made of, particles, atoms, genes, neurons, and so, as opposed to representations, colors, sounds, feelings, and so on. Primary qualities are visible but real and never experienced subjectively. Secondary qualities, visible but non-essential, are experienced subjectively. Far from being an obvious division, it is the operation of political epistemology par excellence that is undone by experimental metaphysics and forbidden by the new constitution. Okay, yeah, so it's kind of what it sounds like. And then the other thing is essences. Is it's probably essences is what he's saying. Yeah, probably yeah, essence. The term for metaphysics that takes on a political meaning here, not the beginning of the process of composition or articulation. The term habit is reserved for that. But its provisional conclusion. There are indeed essences, but these are obtained by institution, the end of an explicit process that gives them durability and indisputability by attaching attributes to their substance. To call this concrete history, I use the expression essences with fixed boundaries. Okay, I think what he's saying, he has this concept in You've Never Been Modern. Um, there are no universals outside of networks. And I think that's what he's going back to again. If I looked up institution, I could probably. I'm going to read institution real quick. Uh, yeah, yeah, it's what he's referring to. Okay. Um, so we have that down. So secondary qualities as opposed to essences, you can only get at what is like this fucking subjective and like it's meaningless basically. And primary qualities are but like don't actually matter to the thing basically. Um and essences are the thing that happens after the common world is built up again. And then the last one is the cave. And with this, I will explain the social. Cave. Which is an allegory to Plato's cave, I'm sure. The expression derived from the Platonic myth in the Republic and uses a shortcut to designate the bicameralism of the old constitution with its separation between the heaven of ideas on the one hand and the prison of the social sphere on the other. I'll see also old regime. Oh, old regime doesn't mean what I think it means. Okay. Okay, it's the two houses. Between nature and politics. This bad bicameralism is by a good bicameralism that distinguishes between two representative powers. The power to take into account the upper house and the power to put in order the lower house. Okay. We're gonna stop definition maxing for right now, and we're gonna fucking go. I'm sure these terms will come up again, so it's kind of fine. But otherwise, we're gonna be here all day because all of these seem very connected and necessary to one another. So we're going to stop right now. I'm going to go with society and the social. The term society or social world are used as the half of the half of the old constitution that is to unify subjects detached from objects and always subject to the threat of unification by nature. It is an already constituted whole that explains human behavior and thus make it possible to short-circuit the political task of composition. It thus plays the same paralyzing role as nature for the same reasons. The adjective social in the prison of the social sphere or social presentation, social constructivism, is thus always pejorative. So the text makes the hopeless effort of the prisoner of the cave to articulate reality, but lacking the means to do so. And basically, what Latour is saying is, I don't like the social, and I don't like society. At least the way it's defined. Latour often redefines what society is and what the social is. But in this, he is going to do away with the social and society. It seems he's not going to deal with it. The social is pejorative. It is something that ends up not going towards the task he wants it. He wants it to, because it never ends up giving someone the means to describe the very thing they're trying to do, to articulate the very reality they're trying to fucking say. So yeah, and that was all for one footnote. I think was it for the footnote? It was probably for the footnote, wasn't it? It was for the footnote. 2 of the 2. 252. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it was the footnote. And so yeah, and so this finally this book obviously presupposes a wholly different theory. Finally, this book obviously presupposes a wholly different theory of the social than the one espoused by the sciences of society. Yeah, yeah. He has a different theory of the social than that. And this was kind of just like saying he was just yapping about how it's a reference, but I'm going to explain it again. Most of you will, if you've read my older stuff, you know what I'm yapping about. But if you don't, if you haven't read my older stuff, I'm going to explain it. Nothing's going to be left unexplained. So it's okay. You're all good, buddy. It's okay, good buddy. That's what he's telling you. Then he's patting you on the back, and he's like, "It's okay. Don't worry." Still on page 7. Haha. In chapter 1, we shall rid ourselves of the notion of nature by turning first to the contributions of the sociology of the sciences, then to those of the ecology movements, their practice as distinct from their philosophy, and finally to those of comparative anthropology. Political ecology, as we shall see, cannot hold on to nature. In chapter 2, I shall proceed to an exchange of properties between humans and non-humans. This will allow us to imagine, under the name of collective, the successor to the political institutions that have been awkwardly brought together now under the aegis of nature and society. I'm going to look up what the collective is, because the collective is an important term. Non-humans are what they sound like. They are things that are not human. It's really simple. Really simple. That isn't what. Also, you'll if you guys saw the fucking the what's it called? The thumbnail, you'll notice that what I did was I scrolled through this book and I found one of the Bruno Latour graphs, one of the Bruno Latour fucking figures, and I just copy and pasted it because I think it's funny. Because I love his freaking figures. I love his figures. Collective. To be distinguished, first of all, from society, a term that refers to a bad distribution of powers. It accumulates the old powers of nature and society in a single enclosure before it's differentiated once again into distinct powers. The power to take into account, the power to put in order, the power to follow up. In spite of its use in the singular, the term refers not to an already established unit, but to a procedure for collecting associations of humans and non-humans. Yeah, it is about the associations. It's about the collective is the collection of associations that you get when you're it's a process. I'm just gonna say it's a process and leave it at that. My little kitty. No, I didn't mean to do that. Control Shift F. This new collective will allow us to proceed in Chapter 3 to the transformation of the venerable distinction between facts and values. We shall replace it with a new separation of powers that will offer us more satisfactory moral guarantees. The distinction between two new assemblies, the first of which will ask, how many are we? The second, can we live together? Will serve political ecology as its constitution. In Chapter 4, readers will be rewarded for their efforts by a guided tour of the new institutions and by a presentation of the new professions contributing to the animation of a political body that has last become viable. The difficulties will begin again in Chapter 5, where we shall be obliged to find a successor to the ancient split that separated nature in the singular from cultures in the plural, in order to raise once again the question of the number of collectives in the progressive composition of the common world. The notion of nature, like that of society, had prematurely simplified. Finally, in the conclusion, I shall address questions about the type of Leviathan that allows political ecology to leave the state of nature. In view of the spectacle that that has been embraced throughout, readers will perhaps forgive me the aridity of the root. Before ending the introduction, I need to define the particular use that I'm going to make of the key term political ecology. I am well aware that it's customary to distinguish scientific ecology from political ecology, the former being practiced in laboratories and field expeditions, the latter in militant movements and in the parliament. But as I propose to reshape the very distinction between the two terms, science and politics, in every particular, it's really clear that we cannot take that distinction at face value, for it is going to become untenable as we progress. After a few pages, at all events, there will be little point in differentiating between those groups of people who want to understand ecosystems, defend the environment, or protect nature, and those who want to revive public life, since we are going to learn instead to distinguish the composition of the common world that is built according to due process from that of a world elaborated without rules. For the time being, I shall retain the term political ecology, which remains an enigmatic emblem, allowing me to designate, without defining it too quickly, the right way to compose a common world, the kind of world the Greeks called the cosmos. And we will finish the introduction by looking up cosmos and political ecology. Let's start with cosmos. 238. My cat's rubbing on the microphone. She's happy with you guys. She's like, friend. Here we are going back to the Greek meaning arrangement, harmony, along with the more traditional meaning world. The cosmos is thus synonymous with the good common world that Isabel Stengers refers to when she uses the term cosmopolitics, not in the multinational sense, but in the metaphysical sense of the politics of the cosmos. To designate its antonym, we could use the term cosmos. He used the term cosmos before. I've heard that term before. Where have I heard that from? That's a reference. That's a reference. Political ecology. And then we have to go to political ecology. Okay. The term does not differentiate between scientific ecology and political ecology. It is built on the model, but in opposition to political economy. It is thus used to designate, by opposition to the bad philosophy of ecology, the understanding of ecological crises that no longer use nature to account for the task to be accomplished. It serves as an umbrella term to designate what succeeds modernism according to the alternative modernize or ecologize. Okay, so it's in opposition to political economy, so we should probably look at political economy. Okay, but political economy isn't here, I'm noticing. Okay. Okay, motherfucker, I hate you too. Okay, I guess we're just gonna look at economy then. I'm so pissed off at you, Bruno Latour. You're not making it clear which you're gonna say. I'm literally crying. Literally freaking sad. Okay. Okay, so this is it. Political economics as the economics of the political, short-circuiting of the state of law, is contrasted with economics as the formatting of ties and the elaboration of a common language, allowing for the construction of models as well as the calculation of optima. Okay, buddy. Yeah, fucking use terms. Optima. I don't know what optima means. Might be a really obvious word. Definition. The most favorable conditions or level for growth, reproduction, or success. Oh, optima is the plural of optimum. I didn't know that. Okay. So it is actually a word I know. Economics free from politics, like epistemology, thus becomes a skill of the same basis as politics or the laboratory science, not the infrastructure of societies. An economizer is someone who practices economics and thus performs the economy. Okay, so I don't think he's talking about political economy in most of this definition. I think he's talking about just economy. That's the okay, so it's the the short circuiting of the state of law, whatever the fuck that means. Okay. 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 I guess that makes sense. I'm just gonna say that makes sense. I'm not gonna elaborate. Stay for the Okay. Now the question is, do I read more, or do I lie? Um. Um. Should I read more? I'm actually wondering if I should. I'm thinking about actually switching to a game. We went for an hour, which is the normal amount of time I take reading the tour. Really, what do you think? Should we go for longer? How long is this section? Should go to the contents page. It's about 9 pages. No, no, I think I will stop from here, but I'll do another one tonight. You want to give me some feedback? Or if I want to give you some feedback? Okay, yeah, I actually will end stream. Yeah, I like that. I Yeah, 9 pages is about what I expect to get through a Bruno Latour book with. That's what I expect. This is actually expected. So yeah, I guess I will end stream. Bye everyone.